Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio. It is November 18th, 2018, and you're here with your hosts, Lauren Smith and Lori Hood. How you doing, Lori?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so glad that Miss Hood is here today. Not Miss Phillips.
I almost called you Lori Dyer this time. I almost reverted to your maiden name because...
Oh, my goodness.
I got problems. I don't
Oh,
anyway,
you think
so
having a maiden name Dyer, I actually have been asked if I was related to Rick Dyer. So for the record, I am not related to him at all.
Lord have mercy.
There are worse things. So how are you doing tonight? How's everything in your neck of the woods?
Really good. We had some, I live out in the boonies, and I guess there were some teenagers camping out not too far from where I live, and I could hear them. And they were out there doing coyotes, and all that.
Oh my God.
It was crazy, and so anyway, then after a while, the real coyotes kicked in, and when those real coyotes kicked in, they got quiet, and it sounded like the coyotes were right where they were. It was like crazy.
Gosh.
I didn't really hear a whole lot the rest of the night from them. They probably went home after that, I'm sure. But have you heard the story about the wild raccoons in West Virginia? Daniel, have you heard about it?
No. I do know
Okay.
I've been seeing a lot more dead raccoons on the side of the road more than usual, but here in Virginia, but not West Virginia. So.
Well, apparently this neighborhood has been terrorized by these wild, brazen raccoons. I mean, they're not afraid of anybody, and they're tearing in, trying to get in people's houses, and just the story just goes on and on. And so they've been calling the police, saying, "Come, these raccoons are rabid because they're not afraid of anybody or anything." Well, so they come and they finally are able to capture a couple of these vicious beasts. It turns out that they're not rabid at all. They're drunk. They have been eating.
Oh my gosh.
They have been eating fermented crab apples. So these raccoons are surly. I suppose they just threw them in a drunk tank and let them sober up a little bit. But can you imagine what these guys in drunk tank thought when they see this raccoon over there?
Now that you mentioned about them being drunk, that does sound a little familiar. I couldn't put a finger on it, but there was something I saw on Facebook where there was some kind of animals. They were drunk. They were like couldn't really walk straight. They were falling over every time they walked.
Yes. Yes.
So that may have been what that was.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I remember hearing a story about a pig. It was in Australia, of course. A pig got drunk a pig broke into a campsite. It drank like a 30-pack and fought a cow.
Oh my gosh.
Pig.
Oh my gosh. Only in Australia. What are you saying about Australia?
I know.
That they're a little bit on the...
No.
They're surly over there in Australia.
Don't put words in my mouth. One of our biggest listeners is from Australia.
I know.
And I'm sure he's agreeing with me right now.
I'm waiting for him to respond. Bear O'Brien, we were talking about your country there. Oh my goodness.
You might want to set us straight real quick, sir.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, drunk raccoons. Non-drunk, like sober raccoons scare the peas out of me. I can't even imagine a drunk raccoon. Good night. Oh,
but other than that, I don't really have anything else to share tonight. But we do have a good friend, our good friend Daniel Benoit from Virginia, and he's been on this show several times, and just have to get caught back up with him because he's not one of these people that just stays in one place. He continues to grow and advance in this field. And so it's not like, you had him on several times. We've had him on several times before, but it's like each time we have him on, he's moved from one viewpoint to a new viewpoint, and he's started doing more things and less of other things. And so that's why we brought him back on to get an update with Daniel. So, Daniel, welcome back to Nite Callers Bigfoot Radio.
Well, thank you very much for having me back again. It is always a pleasure to be back with you guys. And tell you, there's a few things I will definitely be getting into talking about tonight. So I'm looking forward to discussing things with you guys and answering any questions that you or any of the callers may have to the best of my ability. So, one of the things I do want to throw out there real quick, there's a question that I was actually asked under one of my posts in one of my groups, and it was a little too close to respond because I was prepping to get on here, and I mentioned to him, I shared him the link to the show tonight, so I said, I'll tell you what, I'll try to address that question on the show, so tune in. So if you guys don't mind, there's a question, and I like to try my best to respond to it. It's kind of a common question. In a way, I'm sure we've all heard this question asked before, and this is by Mr. Jackson Samuel on Facebook. And his question is, what does it have to take? What does it take to prove the existence of Sasquatch so we can protect them? And that question, the response could be very touchy to a lot of people in the Bigfoot community. And I'm going to share my honest response to that. And just after giving it a lot of thought and hearing science's side and view of things, I have to agree with science that there is a body. A body, is required, a specimen. And in defense of, to better explain that, some people don't believe in killing Sasquatch, which, I totally agree. I don't believe in killing them to prove their existence. I do believe there is an alternative or another way that we could come up with a body, but I think it's a more challenge and a long shot. But, as much as, many of us do get in the field, boots on the ground, for those who dedicate themselves into this, I believe it's a matter of time that we might just come across the remains of one. And, and to do so, to come across the remains of one, there's what I believe to be protocol. There should be protocol as far as documenting and collecting evidence, there's so much evidence out there. People collect hair, people collect, handprints and stuff like that, and we all automatically assume it's Bigfoot, it's Sasquatch, which that's a big error. And the thing is, any samples, regardless of whatever it is, again, there's steps, there's protocols, and to collect these. And part of the protocol method is one thing I've actually learned from one of my former speakers from our most recent event this past year. Mr. Darby Orcutt from North Carolina State University. I'm not going to get into a long, drawn-out explanation about him. I know he doesn't like too much discussed regarding his project and everything, but I've learned about protocol and the steps that the project is trying to put forth in order extreme science will be willing to accept, or consider more of the possibility of Sasquatch's existence. And there's a number of steps that we could take with all the alleged pieces of evidence that is not acknowledged or accepted now by science, such as foot tracks. And again, the hair. I've recently been finding hair on broken tree limbs and things like that. So I guess, again, to answer that question, yes, it's going to take a body regardless of how it's done. But, again, I don't believe in killing. But, again, it does take a body. Regardless of how that happens, until we have a body laid out there in front of science. And, and then, again, then there's the other question. What happens if it gets put away and you're made to be shut up? Man, take that body, throw it out in front of a news, take it to the news station. It's going to have to be put out there publicly somehow. Say, yeah, this is what I got. You cannot shut me up but deny this. Once it goes public, everybody's going to see it. But then, with that being documented, you need to have something collected showing you that you're collecting from that specimen, and then let it go from there and hope that everything goes in your favor. So
I agree.
Yeah, so
I have a question for you, though. I have a question now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why? I'm definitely pro-life. I know you are too. On Sasquatch, but in other words, you're no kill, basically,
right.
And every time this question is asked, this is the answer that most people will say. Well, it's going to take a body. But I have to ask, why? What if it is an endangered species? Why would you be required to take a specimen of something that may be endangered? And why is it that other new species are discovered without taking a specimen? Like rare fish and different kinds of insects and things like that. All they have to have is a picture or video of these. They don't have to take a specimen.
Right.
So
you raise a very good question. Well, the thing is, it's by the proper authorities that they are being recognized and observed. So that's a big help right there. But again, when specimen, of course, when I refer to specimen, again, we're referring to the body. So, all right, take for example, you got all these alleged samples, DNA samples, and they get tested, and it's coming back unknown. So all these samples are coming back unknown. The reason is they have nothing to acknowledge it or label it because they don't have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
So therefore, that's where science is, saying, you can't say that this is this. You can't label it as this. This is not going to make it solid proof or evidence to say, hey, we have the existence of Bigfoot because of that hair came back unknown. It's not labeled as nothing. You need to, according to science, sadly, you need to have a specimen to compare that sample to. And
okay, but you've got all these samples of hair. Say there has been, and this is just the ballpark figure, maybe 300 samples of Bigfoot hair have been sent in for analysis. They all come back unknown primate or unspecified primate or whatever it comes back as. And yet, I'm wondering, are any of these samples ever compared to each other as being the same? And if so, why don't they just say, just give it a name, such as this is factor B hair, or, just so that it has some sort of, just because they don't have a specimen, if you've got 300 samples of, I'm not trying to be argumentative, Daniel.
Oh, no, not at all. I like this.
Open, yeah. That if you have 300 samples of Bigfoot hair and they all match, to me, that tells me right there, and these are all coming from different parts of the country, even the world, it tells me right there there's something out there. And even as a scientist would have to look at that and say, now this is impossible for this hair to be found in China, and then this hair be found in Ontario, Canada, and this hair be found in the swamps of Florida.
Right.
And they're all the same.
Well, in the world of science, I'm not no expert, but, one thing I have learned is keep in mind, scientists in general, with their research and their findings, they are very confidential. In order to release something, there's procedures and steps they need to go through, such as a peer review, and they need to have all their sequences, everything, all their work laid out there and explained. And so thing is, they can't just go openly and say, well, we have all this, we're going to name it this. Now, as far as you using that example, as they may have samples that have come back as unknown, and most likely they are holding on to them for their research, just in case they do come up with something, a body or something that, hey, wait a minute, this is matching this, and they probably do have it labeled under some code name, or I can't say for sure, but as far as releasing the work without having something solid to label it as, they can't just say, we have all these samples of unknowns, but we're going to nickname it such and such. Again, in the science world, they are very confidential for their work, for liability issues, and I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that. But again, I'm not no expert, but just a few things I'm familiar with when it comes to science. But and for the listeners, don't get me wrong, I'm not a scientist, and there's a lot more to it than what I'm speaking about.
But you're well versed on the scientific avenue that they have to take to prove the existence, and that's the reason why I'm talking with you about this, because you know the protocol that has to be taken to prove their existence. And
right.
Are you familiar with the Genome Project? Did you know anything about that?
Yes and no. Of course, I wasn't involved, but I paid a lot of attention to it. And of course, that all started off with I was wondering if this was going to get brought up, because with Mel Ketchum and
yes. Yes.
Well, let me back up. And for the record, for those, I've shared information in the past when Mel Ketchum, when she started up with this. I believe it was back in 2011, 2012, or maybe, and when I first heard about what she was getting into and what she was going to try to do, man, I was one of the many that were like pumped up and excited about it. But,
exactly, me too.
Yeah, and I watched, I paid attention, and I was like, wait a minute, the things started showing that things weren't working out in her favor, and then, all this information was being put out there, and I started speaking to others that did get involved, that did research, the real experts, and so I started looking into this, and I started asking questions. I said, could you please explain to me what's wrong with her work? And this is what I found out, and it's public information. If you do enough research, you'll find that what she did was she did DNA sequences on all these alleged samples. Now, a lot of these samples were coming back as, I believe, around 95%, 95 point something percent. This when it was 99.9% actually this, because with what she was doing, her sequences were incomplete. Therefore, a majority of her samples were actually bear. Some of them were dogs. Some of them were possum. So, and what got me was there was actually people that were, her, I guess you could say her cult followers or cult leaders, and those who would say, well, I was part of her project, blah, blah, blah. She does have Bigfoot DNA, blah, blah, blah. Well, it was never put out there publicly. It was never put in paper. It was never put in writing. And, her peer review team, everybody on her staff, everybody disappeared. Nobody wanted to talk because it was, her work was incomplete. And, and that's what a lot of people didn't get, that the sequences were, excuse my language, but they were half-assed, so instead of completing them to the, full, sequence, to get the proper, adults, that's what happened. And, and I have
I mean, you don't know, but why do you think she didn't complete the sequence? Because she wanted it to appear that she had the result that she had instead of the result that was a reality, or what do you think?
Well, all due respect to Miss Melba, but, I don't think she realized it at the time. And I think she thought she knew she had it. But, I think she more or less fooled herself in this, and therefore was pushing it out there as that she had something going on, and which I really wish she was or did, and so yeah, like I said, I don't think she was doing anything intentionally wrong. She was just an error by not properly following the proper procedures, going through the peer review steps, and and having everything put out there as the way it should have been. So, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So,
yes. Oh,
now,
gosh.
there was actually other experts, Todd Disotell, for example, Dr. Haskell Hart. These individuals studied her work, and a lot of people, and this is what gets me, these people, they're not out there to bash her or to trash her or whatever, how you want to call it, but they broke it down for everybody to understand. And, Dr. Todd Disotell, he's been doing this for years, forensics and everything. And here's Melba Ketchum, a veterinarian with very few years of experience into the forensic field. A lot of people don't realize that she wasn't complete, she only had so much experience into this. So, and she was more, doing veterinarian work. So, yeah, Dr. Todd Disotell, Dr. Haskell Hart, these are two examples. These are two gentlemen that actually, that broke down her work and everything, explained to the public where she went wrong. And you can find those videos, those interviews on YouTube. I had an interview with Dr. Haskell Hart. I had him on the show a few years ago, and probably I can't remember, 3 or 4 years ago. And where he actually broke everything down to me and everybody on the panel in lame terms so we could understand, I mean, there was so much that, we did understood, but he explained it the way we understood it. And then again, you got all these other haters out there, as I call them, that didn't want to hear it. And you just think, well, who's this guy? This guy ain't nobody. These guys are highly educational people. I mean, they're not like your average Joe out there. So, so, I mean, so yeah, Dr. Haskell Hart, you feel free, you can look him up on my YouTube channel. And then, actually, I'm having a brain fart here. There was actually a double interview with both Haskell and Todd Disotell with Richter. Richter show, Richter Riolo.
Yeah.
So you could check that out. He actually had a really good interview, a very professional platform done with them where they both speak. So yeah, definitely worth checking out if you want to know the truth about everything.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely.
So I guess, I really appreciate you bringing all this information out, because, there's a lot of listeners, including myself, that just don't know all the facts. And, you can look on Facebook and talk to different people, but it's I don't know, I just trust you on this. And so I appreciate you bringing light to this whole genome thing. And but now back to you. What have you been doing? What is the most current thing? And I hope that answered your friend's question. Well, he got quite an answer, didn't he?
Well, the other thing is too, before I go on, with everything I just threw out there, I know I'm not the best at always explaining details and everything, but again, if you don't want to take my word for what I just threw out there, again, I advise people, I recommend look the information up for yourself. And there's a lot of information, not just the YouTube interviews, but there's actually blog posts and everything done by other professionals and other experts that really break things down and explain a lot too. There's a lot of information explaining her work. And surprisingly, she's added it again. I failed to mention that. So
yes, I heard that.
So,
yes.
So maybe she might have.
She's going up. Maybe she'll get it done right this time.
Yeah, maybe she learned from her errors. Maybe she realized what she's done wrong. Maybe she's going to give it a go and maybe do something right this time. So, I mean, I'm all for what she's trying to do, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I just want to add that out there. So just let people know that I'm not trying to hate on her. I do have respect for her. So,
well, it's just I think what's upsetting to a lot of people, and let me just throw this out there, is that of all the samples that she had, that she didn't have anything. Well, you know, the results I heard were part human, and
yeah,
so that's what really, and it upset some people. You know, we talk to a lot of people on this show, and from all walks of life, and as researchers and stuff. Some believe this, some believe this, some believe they're apes, some believe they're humanoids,
right.
You know, of some kind. And so, you know, you get just whatever you really want to believe. But I'm on the fence. I'll be honest.
Right.
I just don't know. I know I've watched a lot of primate shows with monkeys and gorillas, and it's just amazing to me. Their behaviors are so human.
Right.
So I can
absolutely.
see why they're so human-like, and their emotions, the way they handle things, their facial expressions, their everything, their hands, and it really makes you wonder how easy it would be to think that Bigfoot Sasquatch could be human.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. So I'm on the fence totally. So, but anyway, I'll let you wrap this subject up.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, I hear a lot from various individuals, some of them being my close friends and other fellow researchers, and, everybody has their own opinion, so do I, and I'm very outspoken with my opinion. And, and I try to explain why I believe it is this and not that, but, and I'm not going to push it on anybody either, but there's people out there with their beliefs, they try to push it on people, but don't have nothing that supports that. So, I believe I have a little bit to support what I believe. It may not be enough, but there's a lot of little things I can add into there with comparisons that I like to do that, look at this. And if it is a hybrid, there's other hybrid species of other animals, but they're hybrids of a species that is within its own bloodline. So, if we look at a non-human ape, or like a gorilla or chimpanzee, and of course, according to science, we're considered human apes. So, but yet our DNAs, they're close, but yet we can't mate with each other, or that it don't work that way. That's what makes us completely different, sets us apart from each other. We're actually, we're considered primates. So, so then, what gives what's the way I want to throw this out there? As far as I forgot the way I wanted to word it, but as far as
don't you take that when that happens?
Yeah, I know. I had it in my head, but I couldn't speak it. So, I mean, I guess basically,
when someone has an opinion, or they're dead set on something.
I'll probably come back to that later. I can't think about how I want to word that, but so I'm sure with something I'll talk about may lead me coming back to that anyway. I'm very random in discussions. I could jump to something else and wait a minute, I want to throw this back in there, something like that.
That's fine.
So,
that's fine. You must be ADD like the rest of us. I don't think you can be anything but ADD in this world of Bigfoot, you know.
So, I mean,
well,
if I think of it, I'll
that,
write it down. So,
honestly, I think that people develop a kind of a relationship with the Bigfoot that they encounter, even though it just may be a sighting. If it's a visual where they actually connect eyes, you know, and such like that, and then the whole experience together, you know, once it, you know, when it initially happens, the people are just terrified. But then when they look back on it, then they just kind of, I don't know how to explain it any better than this, because it kind of happened to me, is that it became a more personal experience. And I felt that there was more to the experience than probably actually really was. Does that make sense? In other words, they're personalizing it to be a human versus human experience where, you know, because of the way that they followed, you know, they may have followed that person for a while before they saw it, or the fact that it didn't hurt that person, or, you know, whatever. And I'm probably going to get roasted over this one, I'm sure. But, you know, some people just connect in a way with them more like it's a human and human, like on a human level. Right. Instead of it being a scientist versus a specimen type level, or a hunter versus its target level, or however, you know, you get some people out there, all they want to do is shoot one, that $1 million Bigfoot thing, you know, and that's how they're looking at it, as it's their prey. And they don't look at it as anything else. In fact, the more that they can demonize that creature, you know, to make them feel better, or anybody else that's, you know, they're talking to feel better about it, make them vicious and wild and killing people and dangerous, and they need to be eradicated from the earth. Well, I'm going on. But anyway, I think it's the way people perceive the Bigfoot when they have an encounter. And you've had several sightings and encounters. And in your encounters, can you list an example where you felt that it may have been more than just a primate?
Well, I mean, like, are you saying, is there one that I can indicate that makes it more than a primate? That I would think of it more than a primate?
Yeah, I mean, you know, because I know they're extremely intelligent, you know, but so are crows and magpies, and, you know, there are other animals out there that are squirrels, you know, are extremely intelligent, you know, just because they can outwit us at every turn, it seems like. To me, that really made me think that there was more to them than just being an ape. Just the fact that they know about game cameras and they avoid them, and they've even triggered, I've seen pictures where they've triggered game cameras with sticks, or just putting their hands across it to make it flash, you know. I can't tell you how many pictures I've seen of that. So to me, that's telling me that there isn't a really great intelligence there, more than your bear or your deer or anything else that will walk in front of that camera. Would you agree with me?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Most definitely. Yeah, I mean, I like to believe that they are, I mean, they're phenomenal, the way they behave and what we do observe of them. And there's a lot to them that, yes, I could honestly say that we could relate to how they act, you know, and, you know, they are very curious. We like to learn. We like to, you know, it's like, even us as adults, we're like little children all over again, because that's why children get into, you know, we got to guide them and watch them, because, you know, children are curious. They want to observe. They want to get into things and want to know how things work, you know. So we're the same way out in the woods. I mean, we observe a lot of wildlife, a lot of their behaviors, but then we got something more mysterious out there, like Sasquatch. you know, and Sasquatch, they're used to seeing their own what lives out there. So when we come out there, if they're around, yeah, they're going to be curious. They're going to be watching you. They may not have to be that close, but yeah, they're going to observe us. They want to know, what's he doing here? You know, why is he doing what he's doing? It would be the same thing if we saw them. Like, oh, we might be in shock when we see them. You know, you know, it's like, what are they doing? Why are they doing that? You know, and you know, so it's I don't know. It depends on how you want to look at it, but it is very fascinating. You know, just from what we do observe, and that's where I do a lot of my comparisons to what I do to explain my belief. You know, on what they might be, and you know, because there's a lot of their characteristics, their traits, their behaviors that I believe I could identify or compare to our non-human primates. Because, again, even you said it, that our non-human primates have that intelligence to show, like almost like, yeah, they have that human brain in them, or like they have a brain that's made to think and to develop things, you know. So we know that a primate could develop the intelligence to do, you know, sign language. That's how smart they are. We know that they're trained to do that. So with enough observation, I believe one could develop, you know, if one watches campers behave in a way, you know, well, whatever it might be, they might, oh, those people are dancing. We're going to start doing it too, but we don't know why we're doing it. So, I mean, they might do things for a different reason than what we might do them for, you know. So we can't say, oh, they're throwing a rock at us, you know. They might see us throw something, so they might throw a rock back at us. Why are they throwing a rock at us? They don't know why we're throwing rocks. You know, little things like that. But I have had rocks thrown at me before, twice, but, you know, in two totally different locations. And, you know, that's something different. I believe that was telling me to get out of Dodge. But, I don't know, there's so much that we could think about from what we observe. And there's several ways to, you know, maybe compare, you know. But what do you think
about gifting? I mean, people will go through a whole gifting program with them, and
well, I think that's awesome. To be honest with you, I mean, there's different ways of gifting. A lot of people, before I go on, a lot of people believe in or like to use food, and you know what? I think in a way that's okay. But what are you leaving out there for them to where could they be allergic to something? You know, you're posing a potential threat to them, something that even a human might be allergic to. Could they be allergic to something? People love leaving peanut butter, and you know the thing is, peanut butter is probably like one of the famous things for a lot of people like to throw out there and use. I'm guilty of it. I've done it too, but I've used a trail camera. And bears love peanut butter. So, you know, I've had bears take off the whole jar in their mouth and run off with it. So, you know, but then again, you know, if humans could be related to peanuts, how do we know that a Sasquatch is not allergic to that? You know, or anything that may have nuts in it or you know what I mean? What if we leave something that has milk in it or made with dairy? Are they lactose intolerant? We don't know that, but yet we're leaving certain food items out there that could be posing a potential threat to them, to their health. We could be killing them and spreading a disease that we don't know about. Now, I believe it's safe to say, you know, or safe to maybe leave people like leaving apples. I think that's probably one of the safest things out there is to leave, you know, some kind of fruit out there. Apples, I think, would be the safest food item to leave out there, especially those who like to leave them high in the trees, which that's good. I do recommend them hanging them higher than 6 feet because people hang apples on trees and they disappear. And people don't realize deer will eat them. You know, deer will stand up on their hind legs and eat them. A deer could reach up to a good 6 feet tall on their hind legs, you know. So people forget to realize that. They neglect, you know, other wildlife that goes out there.
Raccoons are very resourceful. So are possums. I mean, they know how to, you know, either one can get up in a tree and eat apples. There's got to be, like, I don't know. There surely is. But, you know, there are people that have gifting programs set up all over the United States. And they give and receive. And I don't know of any other animal that does that. Other than cats. You know, the cats will bring you dead mice, and dogs might bring you old rotten bone from somewhere, somebody's dump pile. And
there's certain birds out there that's been known to do that. Yep, you took the words out of my mouth. A crow, and there's another species related to a crow or similar to a crow, which I'm not thinking of the name right off of my hand. I want to say it's similar to like a magpie or something like that. But there's other ones that are known for...
The raven, I think it is. The raven.
Okay, it could be. It might be a raven. That may be it. I know there was a story where I think it was a little girl who had a bird that always brought her stuff. And there were different parts of different items. A lot of them were like buttons and stuff from off of shirts. And wherever the crow found stuff, they collected things and brought it to this little girl for a long time. And I don't know. I thought that was very cool. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of anything like that.
Yes. I was watching a show. It was on Science Channel or something, or it was these two birds that were in a contest with each other over. Now these were just regular. But one was a crow, and the other one was like a parrot. One was a parrot, and one was a crow. And seeing which one was more intelligent could figure out how to get into the box to get the treat, or what to pull to release the treat, you know, and things like that. And it was just amazing how intelligent they were. How after just one try, they already knew how to go around and do it a different way. Like that, how to go in through the tube, or, you know, open the little door, however it was. And it was just real interesting that, you know, I'm just the voice of people out there that believe there's more to them than just being a super ape. And so I'm not saying that I believe that, because I go back and forth. I will be honest with you, Daniel. I have thought they were human or almost human. And then I thought, no, they're not. They're just an ape. They're some kind of I guess ape is not the right word that I want to use, but not human.
Yeah.
So, and I just go back and forth. I mean, do we all do that, or? Yeah.
You know, I think there is some that do that. For the longest time, now you were debating on how, if they're not human, you weren't sure what else to refer to them as. Well, regardless if they're human or non-human, I mean, a lot of people say, well, they're human. Well, humans are still considered apes, according to science. So, you know, that's why I try to specify non-human versus human ape, you know. So, but in my opinion and with my research, I will honestly say I have not found anything as far as proof or evidence-wise that made me think differently, other than just more or less added more credibility or more reason for me to continue to believe that it is this, rather than the possibility of being something different. Now, I will not dismiss the possibility of it being what other people believe or think, but I just haven't, I personally, and this is a personal thing, I personally have not seen or have found or experienced what people claim. I mean, I like to believe I'm in the woods maybe as much, if not more, than some of these people, you know. And, you know, the thing is, I do work for a living, so, I mean, there's times I can't get out there. Even there's some weekends I can't get out there, you know, for various reasons. So, but, so, you know, again, it all depends.
Well, you go on, you do investigations and things like that. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
What do you tell the people that are calling you and telling you to come investigate incidents that are occurring on their property? What do you tell them that if they say, what are these things? What do you tell them? Just what you said, or?
Well, for example, before I even go and investigate, I more or less have to interview them through either a phone discussion or, a lot of times, in most cases, it's a back and forth Facebook discussion on Messenger, and I'm asking, I need to get all the details as I can. And then when they start showing photos, for example, one I've been gathering information for the last couple of weeks, which we were going to actually go out, was it last weekend? It didn't work out, but we were going to actually step foot on this one location after hearing the information we received, and it didn't work out. And then today, the individual found some foot tracks that were left in the snow. Well, she said ice, but snow, ice, whatever. And she sent me photos. And right away, when I saw these photos, and keep in mind, I'm not no expert. I'm not an anthropologist. But when you see foot tracks for a long, I found several foot tracks of my own in the woods. And I compared human. I even have human tracks I compared to. And when I saw these tracks, automatically I said, these are human. These are not. They don't display or share any Sasquatch traits that we're familiar with. That what we find, and so I'm also considering the words of Dr. Jeff Meldrum and other anthropologists who explain the foot patterns and all these different. I know Sasquatch tracks come in all shapes and sizes, wide, some a little bit narrower, longer than others, and and then as far as their mid-tarsal break, which is also known as the flexation, the wide display of toes versus or compared to a human track. When a human track is very narrow and we have a high instep, and especially from wearing shoes over a period of time, our toes are more closely crunched together, and I even asked this lady. I was honest with her, and I said, the first thing I said to her, I said, these are very human-like. And she assured me that they were not from her or her husband, and they were coming from a creek. And so I said, you sure no one's messing with you? Because I said, these are very human. I said, I guess this lady doesn't know me from Adam, but so I decided to share the pictures on Facebook earlier today, and I had them up for a little while, and after sharing the information about what was said and sharing my opinion, that I honestly believe that these are human, but I go on to say why the individual said they weren't human. So, and I was just kind of blown away, and I guess she saw my post because we were only on communication through Messenger, and she wasn't even actually on my friends list, but she saw my post and took offense to it because she saw everybody saying, yeah, the anatomy's saying that's human. Not even, and I have people on my Facebook that some of them are quick to say Sasquatch on everything, and even them were saying that's human. And I mean, it was pretty obvious. I mean, anybody who's ever seen, look at the footprints in the sand when you go to the beach. Exactly what these look like in the snow. So, So I mean,
not saying she hoaxed it, just saying it's not a squatch.
Yeah, right. And then she was getting offensive, saying, "Well, if you guys don't want to know the truth, you guys don't take this serious." I don't understand where she was coming from with that, because I was like, we do take this seriously. That's why we are very objective. A lot of us are very objective.
For second, and you asked for other opinion to make sure that you were being, taking this seriously.
Yeah, because that's the very last thing I added under my post before the picture showed was, what are your thoughts? I wanted to get other people's opinions, exactly. So, and I'll never bash anybody because I will always give everybody a benefit of the doubt. But, again, with what I saw, and I really there's a part of me that really wanted to believe this individual, and I'm still not saying that she's a hoaxer, but I believe that somebody may have messed around and, stepped in the snow or whatever. But it was only a couple inches, but it was, I don't know. It was just kind of mind blown. Actually, while I'm talking about that, real quick, hold on. Yeah, Lori, I'll actually send you a couple of the pictures real quick. Just let you look at them. And I think you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so I just sent you 5 of them. It'll probably take a minute. Oh, never mind. They already popped up on your messenger. So.
Okay, they're probably on her messenger.
Yeah, her. Okay, I don't know if I have you on Facebook. I maybe I do. I'm not sure.
I think you do.
I know you. I think.
I think you've been in contact with her, so.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I think I'm on Instagram with you, but so yeah, I think she sees them now.
Right.
So. Yeah, Laura, you see see what I'm talking about with those photos?
I think she'll be right back. I got her muted for the moment.
Oh, okay.
There she is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was like I still got the dogs outside, but they were downstairs just raising sand, wanting to go out, and I'm like, good God, I'm trying to do a show here. So. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
Them stairs, I'm getting too old for them stairs. I don't know what I'm going to do here. Okay, let me look at Facebook. Oh, yeah,
these are
the
tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are the tracks that she got offended about and that I shared for other people's opinion when I, because, like I mentioned, I said my gut and my instinct with my experience is telling me that this is no way this could be anything different than human. And, and again, I wasn't trying to call this lady a liar, but I was more or less trying to get her to understand my point of view, so, and then, she...
Well, and then, Daniel, you got to... Also, and I'm sure you pointed this out to her, the stride is a human stride. It's like, it's like...
Yeah, I didn't even explain that to her, because, there's certain things I will not share with a... Huh?
Yeah. I had someone I was out researching with one time, and there was an owl up in the tree, and he swore up and down it was Bigfoot. Now, it was up in the tree. And he said, it's a Bigfoot up there, it's a Bigfoot. And I said, that is not a Bigfoot. That is an owl. And, of course, but he was from another part of the country. And possibly, you know how barred owls will change their dialect depending on where you live. And so, that probably didn't sound like the barred owls he's used to hearing. And so he was sorely offended because I would not say it was a Bigfoot.
Man, I could tell you some stories about barred owls. I mean, they're very common in where I camp in my research area. They're crazy at nighttime, and I walk. I mean, during the daytime. I mean, I've seen them during the daytime, and I mean, they come in all sizes. And I remember one time driving down the forest road, and when my daughter saw one fly across right in front of us, she was so excited. I've seen them plenty of times out there, and she thought she was seeing a giant. I mean, just something out of this world kind of thing. I was like, did you see that? She wouldn't shut up about it. I said, that was a barred owl, Brianna. I said, that's one of the big ones out here. Barred owls, they get up to 3-4 feet, some of them. But, I mean, I've seen them. Standing up, they'll be a good 2 or 3 feet. Easily.
Well, I know the horned owls get pretty tall, but not the barred owls. I mean, barred owls down here probably.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know that it may sound exaggerating, but trust me, I have seen them that big. There's a lot of animals, a lot of wildlife. Yeah, there's a lot of wildlife here in Virginia I've seen. I could take you out in the middle of the national forest, miles deep in the forest where there's hidden, I call them hidden fields, where there's hunters that know about these fields, but I've walked up on wild turkeys, like massive turkeys, like turkeys that you would think they were mutants. They were so big. And I exaggerate, and I tell you, I lie to you not. Some of the wildlife in this area, they do get to be some pretty decent size because the food sources are it's so abundant with everything there, And I know probably some people might be laughing about this, and some probably have witnessed in some other areas for themselves, but I have seen very massive sized wildlife. They do grow to be pretty big, So, but I mean, I've seen most average your barred owls. I've seen them. They're about a little over 1.5 feet tall. Some of them, like the ones I've seen during the daytime during my hikes. I was walking up this trail out in the middle of the woods, and it was quiet. I had my head down walking up the hill, and I was like, I sensed something watching me too, and it just made me stop and look around, and I looked straight up in front of me. There's this barred owl sitting on a limb staring right at me 20 feet away. I was like, cool.
Oh, I tell you.
I pulled out my phone. I was like, stay there, buddy. Click. So, yeah, I got pictures of that. I thought it was cool.
Oh, you made me think of a really cool experience that I had. My friend Crystal and I were sitting out on the balcony. It's a covered balcony, but it's open, but, it has a roof on it. And we were sitting out there, and I was doing barred owl calls, and one came and landed right in the tree next to where we were. Well, we were just thought that was really cool. And then the next thing it does is it flies right over our heads. I mean, it flew right over our heads to fly out, and we felt the wind off those wings, and that just, it was dark. So it kind of freaked us out because we just felt it go over us.
Right.
And then when we checked out the spot in the tree, it wasn't there anymore. It had flown over the top of us, but that just tripped us out. That, when they look at you, they look like they're just staring you down. They look mad. Have you ever thought that they almost look mad? Like they're just, I don't know. Maybe
yeah.
They look stern to me, just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's just yeah, I can see what you're talking about. That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, barred owls, there's other species I can tell you, like foxes, coyotes, especially coyotes. But a lot of these animals that we're used to hearing some of their common howls or their vocals, people don't realize, like barred owls and coyotes, I'll use them for example. There are like probably 50 or maybe more sounds that these species make that some of them we're not even familiar with, but we might hear them on a rare occasion and think, what in the world is that? Not realizing it's something that we already know about, but they have other vocals that we don't always hear on a daily basis because we're not out there to stay out there and listen and study this, all the time. Barred owls, too. I'll tell you what, I've heard barred owls make some pretty deep sounding, sounds, like a deep, bassy sound, especially in my area because there's hills and ridges and everything, and vocals. When they start communicating back and forth, I mean, some of them will sound, you can tell that they're distant. Some of them you can sound where their vocals are bouncing off the ridges, and that's giving it kind of like a bass, So if they're deep in a hollow, projecting their vocals outward, yeah, you're going to hear something sounding a little deeper than normal. And so, yeah, but coyotes, there's 50 or more. I can't remember what it was, but there's at least there's just so many different tones and vocals that they project, that we're not familiar with. And people need to learn to understand that and realize that and not assume every sound out there in the woods is a Bigfoot, I know I hear a lot of things, and when I hear barred owls, I get very excited about them because one thing I don't think, or maybe if I did, I just don't remember. Maybe I didn't. One thing I don't know if I ever mentioned in past shows, but as far as barred owls go, one thing I've picked up, and I've always heard barred owls around camp and when they communicate, but there's a pattern. There's something that happens after I hear barred owls communicate. That for the longest time, it's always happened. I just never realized it. But after the vocals of a barred owl, there's activity that ends up to follow all that. Where usually after about a half hour after the barred owls sound off, we start hearing other movements. We'll start experiencing tree knocks, and we'll start hearing movement in the bushes around camp. And camp is right across from where we had our 2014 encounter, our sighting. And so we've heard all kinds of stuff around there following,
well,
the sounds of the barn owl.
Tell us about the 2014 sighting, just in case someone out there hasn't heard about it?
Oh, yeah, sure. The 2014 encounter, I'll tell you what, there's a lot that's happened in that particular area. And just not just that sighting, but I've had a situation when I was by myself. I've been with others, hearing other vocals. That area's got tree knocks. I've had a rock thrown at me in that area. But the 2014 encounter, took place during an expedition, and I was just one of 6. There were 6 of us all together, and we were about a mile away from camp, from where we were camping at that particular time. And below the spot where we had our encounter, we were at a lake, and we were paired off in 2s surrounding the lake, and there was no one else down there, and we were just down there listening. And we were spread out, and a couple of us had parabolic mics, and we were listening for other sounds and vocals. And we had radio communication, and we sounded off to one of the other to the older couple down at the beginning of the lake. And we had this one lady, Kimmy Disorder. We'd asked for her she does a real good vocalizations, by the way. She sounds, if anyone's familiar with Bobo, Kimmy Disorder.
Yeah.
She for a little lady that she's a little lady, and she could put out a sound like Bobo. She's just the female version of Bobo, and like I said, she's just a little lady, but her vocalizations carried across that whole lake, and I mean you could hear it go out there, and of course you would think there would be echo, but there was no echo out there. But after she gave off her vocalization, it went dead silent, and we're listening. And then, probably less than 10 seconds, we get a response almost similar to what she just put out there. And that was a little interesting because it was just starting to get dark at that time, And so we hung around there hoping for more. And then all of a sudden, I had a parallel like Tracy Arnold. Him and his son were one spot further down. We were all in communication. And I radioed to Tracy. I said, Tracy, I'm thinking I'm hearing something up on the ridge behind us. And so he started listening, and he's like, yeah, brother, we got something down here too. Now it could have been deer, could have been bear, whatever, but we were hearing things. It sounded like something or somebody walking, stepping on limbs up there, and keep in mind, parts of the ridge behind us, one part was a little bit higher and steeper than the rest of it, but you could still hear, because our parabolic mics, the ones we had, reach out just a little over 300 feet, and they're kind of cheapos, but they work great. So
yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah.
That 300 feet's good.
Oh yeah, for $30 you can't go wrong. So, oh yeah. So after hearing what we heard movement, Tracy and his son, they spotted some eye shine up there, and which was pretty cool. After they spotted the eye shine, keep in mind we've been out there for a while now, and his son was getting a little nervous at the time. So I was like, all right guys, tell you what, let's all regroup. We all got back together at the beginning of the lake, and let's just start working our way back towards camp. So here we are. It's late at night, and we're all on foot. We had a mile hike back to camp, and while we're working our way back up to the forest road from the entrance of the lake, we're all more or less hiking in single file, and we all got our headlamps on, and we're just kind of spotting, from side to side, and, looking around in the woods, but we're talking. We're not trying to be quiet. We're just talking at normal tone, and, kind of getting a little tired, But on our way up there, we're starting to spot some eye shine, like over on the right side up. That's deer. We've got deer over here, guys. Cool, and then all of a sudden I'm up ahead of everybody, and something catches my attention. I'm starting to stare at something, Now, keep in mind, throughout the national forest there's these little square plaque signs posted in random locations throughout some parts of the forest. And, usually these little yellow signs are usually signs that said no vehicles beyond this point, blah, blah, blah. But my headlamp was reflecting on something, and that's what I first thought. And then I'm staring at it, so it comes more in focus. And all of a sudden, I see these two sets of eyes blink up and down. I said, what the? I said, Tracy. Like, Tracy was right behind me. I said, Tracy, what is that? And right after he came up there, I said, well, as soon as he came up to me, I pointed. I said, is that a freaking mountain lion? And those are exact words. I said, is that a freaking mountain lion? Because at the time, it looked like it was a little low. It was like, we didn't realize, but the ground off the side of the forest road sloped way down. And there was a tree right there. So apparently, it was down low, like right there by the edge of a tree. And I was like, I thought it was a mountain lion kind of down, because a mountain lion kind of gets kind of low. And I have seen mountain lions, black panthers cross the road up me since then. But apart from that, that's why I knew they were in the area. It's just that's the first thought that ran through my head. So I'm a little nervous here, And then Tracy signals to the rest of the group, guys, get up here. We got eye shine. So what me and Tracy were seeing down low, apparently it disappeared and went further back. So we all got up to that location where we saw the eye shine, and here we are. We're all looking into that area. And whatever that was, we picked it up again. It was probably a good 40-something feet back. And here we are. We're looking at something, and it's doing a sway and side-to-side motion. And here it is, judging from the height, once we got an idea how low it dropped down, this thing had to have been only about around 4 feet tall, give or take. And here it is swaying side to side. I said, I couldn't think about what that could have been. I said, what in the world is it? It's swaying side to side pretty fast. And the thought did run across my head. I was like, chimpanzees do that kind of crazy thing. But, I'm thinking to myself, I'm not thinking out loud. I'm not talking. I didn't mention it. And then while we're observing that, it's kind of exciting because here it is. It's a little bit of a mystery because I don't know what the heck that was. And then while we're observing that, we're like just about 4 or 5 feet to the right of that, there was another subject standing there that was around 6 foot tall because we picked up the same kind of eye shine, very large, bright yellow, glowing amber looking eyes, and we're staring at that. And we're all noticing it too, and that subject blinked its eyes at us, and it was just whatever it was standing there. Now, keep in mind, this is just a little after midnight. We all got headlamps on. We're all shining our lights in there, but we're only picking up eye shine now. So, and here we are. 2 or 3 minutes have gone by us watching what we're looking at. The small subject is still swaying, but not as fast. It's slowed down a little bit. But it's like, I don't know. I didn't understand the swaying motion. And the tall subject just standing there, that's around 6 foot tall. Then something else happened right after that. Over to the right of the 6 foot subject, I couldn't remember if it was me or Tracy, but one of us, it may have been me. I said, guys, there's something down below in the bushes. And we saw another side of eye shine below the bushes. And I know I kept my eyes on that. And it was slowly starting to raise up, like getting taller and taller and taller and taller. Next you know, by the time it stood up, which I'm assuming it stood up because I'm assuming it was crouched down, this subject here was easily 1.5 feet over top of the 6 foot one. And here it is, basically, easily. So we got a 4 foot, 6 foot, and a one that's about almost around 8 foot tall. And all of a sudden, we're like, here we are. We're kind of assuming that right now, I think somebody mentioned Sasquatch, and I think we're starting to think that we're actually starting to have because Squatch has started getting into the brain a little bit here, because that's what we're out there doing. We're on a Bigfoot expedition looking for Bigfoot signs, and I'm trying to grasp at all this. I was like, could this really be happening? I'm thinking to myself, could this be? But we can't identify what we're looking at. We're seeing all 3 sets of eye shine now, and so some of us, we're so excited. Some of us are getting excited. We're making silly, goofy noises, trying to get the attention, get them to react or whatever it was. But something interesting did happen before this all ended. The tall one happened to make a movement, and a couple of us caught that, where it literally turned to its left, took a step or two, and turned back and looked at us and blinked its eyes a couple times. But now during the whole movement, we made out a silhouette. And that's what, to me, confirmed this being Squatches. There was a big roundness of the head and broad shoulders. And just while it turned and made that movement is what we picked up, the silhouette. And I was convinced, and we were all convinced, that we had a family unit right there. We didn't see features, but with the size and shape of the head and the broad shoulders, there was no doubt that this had to be a family unit, a male, female, and maybe a juvie, And so, while we're observing this, we're like, again, we're still making noises. We're trying to get attention, try to get a response. And then all of a sudden, they all three kind of disappear. They turn their backs, and walk off further into the darkness where we couldn't see nothing no more. And I'll tell you what, while we started walking away and everything, we were listening. It sounds like you could pick up, you could hear their movement. You could hear occasional limb snap, here and there. And but we got out back to the main forest road and kept working our way back towards camp. And we're all pumped up. We're all excited. We get back to camp, and we're trying to calm down. We're actually still trying to debunk what we were just seeing. And then me and Tracy Arnold had backpacks. And the whole time we had our backpacks on, we never not once thought about pulling out what we had in our backpacks. We both had night vision. Not once did we think about pulling it out because we were so caught up in that moment. You can't think straight. You're just focused on wanting to see everything during that moment. You didn't want to miss details. We were hoping to learn more about it, But, we went back the next day. And if you had
broke out the night vision, they may have left, and then you would have cut your encounter short.
Yeah, because, the thing is, we got to thinking about, we had all these headlamps. Couple of us had some really bright ones on. And it's like, I know that had been blinding to them, but the other thing that got me is, why weren't we picking up physical details, besides the silhouette? And the closest I could come up to, the conclusion I come up to on that is, well, they had to have black hair, black fur. And I got to thinking, I said, I've seen so many black bears at night, but yet at nighttime, unless you're in your vehicle, you're not going to see the whole physical body. I've seen black bears at night where only their eyes are shining, but they're out bears just from the way their head's bobbing and moving, So like I said, we're still trying to debunk everything, but we went back the next day to do a height comparison in that very same spot. And, but in all honesty, till this very day, we're convinced that they were a family unit of Squatches that we observed that night. And I've had other situations out of there. Like a year later, I was by myself camping, just right around the corner from there, and it was during the 2015 hunting season. All I had on me was a 12-gauge shotgun. I had my fire going, and I had my shotgun. It was leaning up against the back of my Blazer. There was no one. Surprisingly, there was no one else hunting in the area. Nobody camping in the area. So, I had a fire going, and it was about almost 10 o'clock at night. Just for shits and giggles, I decided to walk out in the middle of the forest road. I had a spotlight with me, but I did not have it turned on. And so I decided to walk out to the middle of the road, very quiet. I'm listening. It's dead quiet. I'm not hearing nothing. So then I pulled the trigger on the spotlight, and I start shining it. And I start off, basically, I'm looking at my about my 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock position. As soon as I started shining it, I didn't see it, but you could hear the sound of a deer take off. So, okay, I spooked the deer. So, and I keep shining. I'm passing 12, passing midnight, and here comes, I get to the 1, 2 o'clock position. And keep in mind, I'm panning kind of slow. But here I am around the 1 and 2 o'clock position. And then all of a sudden, just to say like the tree line, I didn't see nothing. But what I heard next had me very scared because I was alone. My shotgun was back at camp. There was no one else around. And what I heard next was the sound of bipedal steps walking away from me. It wasn't slow and it wasn't fast either. But every step it took, you could hear every crunch, and it's like you could almost feel the thunderous step in your chest. I mean, that's at that moment, that's what I was feeling. You could hear boom, 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 you know. But as it stepped, it was actually crunching everything it stepped on. And I was like, when I heard that, my heart was pounding out of my chest. I started walking backwards, you know, towards camp and reaching down my belt loop because I had my blazer at the time. I was able to push the button. I was pushing the panic button, hurry up and getting back to my blazer, you know, just in case I had to jump in it for whatever reason, you know. But after I got back in my camp, I was like, I calmed down. I just made the fire bigger and held on to my shotgun. So, and then after experiencing that, I was like, I kept thinking about that. I said, if that was something that wanted to hurt me, it would have came out after me. It went away from me. Apparently I did not want to be seen or bothered. And, you know, then I recounted on to what happened in 2014. That couldn't have been that same one. It had to have been something different or bigger because that thing sounded very, very heavy. So maybe it was one of the same ones, but I don't know. I do believe there is a group that hangs in that area, you know. I've had tree knocks during the daytime, at nighttime out of there. I've had a small rock thrown at me in there. I have found tracks in there. Some of my collection of casts I have came from out of that area. So, and I believe they come down. There's a high ridge with creeks and streams that come down through the hollow, and there's other ridges that overlap in the background. I do believe that's their stomping grounds, and that is one of my main areas I love to focus on. And I hang out in that area. Yeah, a lot of the vocals come out of there.
What a blessing!
I mean, the deer love it in there. There's all kinds of wildlife that hangs out in there. I mean, I've had my trail cameras back there. I never caught a Sasquatch on them. I've always had deer, bobcat, and, you know, you name it, I've had it, except the Sasquatch. so everything's in there. I mean, there's food sources there. They got abundance of vegetation, meat, whatever. And the water, because there's a creek that runs into the river, that runs into the lake. So yeah, that's just a little bit about that area right there. So it's a very exciting area.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're all right.
I have a couple of things I want to discuss about.
Yeah, sure.
Earlier you talked about not being able to see anything but their silhouette. We did a thing. We were having a Halloween party one night, and it was all Bigfooters, and we were all dressed up in costumes. Well, a friend of mine, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Dan Ricky, he was dressed up in a gorilla costume, and he was coming through the woods. Well, I knew right away that it wasn't a Bigfoot because, number one, he was making way too much noise. But that, you know, it was just, he didn't move like a squatch, you know. And so I looked around and I didn't see Dan, and I said, oh, yeah, this is, you know. So I went to the woods edge, you know, and I had my little dog with me. And, of course, she liked to eat him up when he come out of the woods. But he was like, he kind of fell out because he was hung up in all these briar vines, and he had this costume on. And it was a black gorilla costume. Well, we really enjoyed, you know, doing some experiments with it. And we did some experiments with night vision. And when he stood by the tree line and you looked at him with night vision, you couldn't see him at all until he opened his eyes.
Ah, okay.
When he opened his eyes, you got that eye shine back. But otherwise, he just totally blended in, totally.
Well,
it
part
was
of that
just unbelievable.
I might be able to shed a little light on that. Now, with that being said, I'm sure the trees were lighting up with more heat compared to what he did. His costume was actually probably blocking out a lot of the heat. Although some costumes. But no, this wasn't thermal. This was just a night vision camera. Oh, night vision. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, this was several years ago when thermal vision was just like things that only very, very wealthy people had. And
yeah,
it was like, it was black and white thermal back then. But, it was interesting, though, that and then the second thing I wanted to talk to you about the activity after the owl calls. I never put that together, but I think there's absolutely something to that. So in that instance, then, have you ever considered doing owl calls to attract Bigfoot to the area that you're in?
Not per se. Now the thing is, the reason I haven't thought about that is because when the barred owls, I think part of the communication with barred owls, the best way I can explain that is I believe that they're acknowledging something and they're communicating about it. So, in other words, kind of like how people say crows, they sound off because there's something in the area. They're like tattletales. So in a way, that's kind of how I'm.
They're doing predator calling. They're sounding well. Yeah, because crows do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Right.
Squirrel will cry when there's a predator in the area. They will start crying and chattering with a cry, and so I just believe. That's what I feel. Now I could be totally opposite or wrong on this, but just from my observations, I believe it's like when they start communicating and sounding off. Yeah, it could be for a number of reasons. I don't know if we'll ever fully understand the reasons behind their calls, but they could just be hunting. So.
But couldn't it be an experiment, though, to get out there? And I know that there are some groups out there that do this. Use the owl call. Sasquatch.
I think that would be a very good idea, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I know they use owl calls for turkey hunting and other sounds. Yeah. So yeah, it's amazing that owl sounds are used for various sources, various reasons. So that would be a good idea. I would definitely be willing to try something like that. Most definitely.
Well, years and years and years ago when I first started in this, I used to go out with the Outlaws. I know you probably heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I used to go out with them. In fact, that's where I learned a lot of things from them. And but one of the things that they had told me is to always use a kind of what they call a fake owl call. Try not to sound like a real owl, but sound like somebody who's trying to imitate a real owl.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, because that's the way a Sasquatch would sound if he was doing it.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know, that didn't seem to, I don't know, I couldn't say if it really, I guess it did, but it's hard to say when you've got all kinds of different calls going out,
Yeah.
They did work, One of them worked because they showed up, but it was like, which one worked? So I couldn't honestly say it was that worked, but, I noticed that it seemed like as long as I was doing my owl calls and they weren't that good, it seemed like I was getting more activity. And as my owl calls improved, I was getting owls.
Oh, yeah.
I was getting owls coming up, so, but if the owls still come, I was thinking, well, maybe it doesn't matter how good or how bad you are at an owl call. Either way, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that. But anyway, we're down to just a few minutes, probably about 6 minutes. So I'm just wondering, is there anything you want to end the show and tell us about that you've got going on? Anything? Are you writing any books or in any documentaries or anything like that you want to share with us?
Yeah, a couple things. One of the things I did want to mention as far as Bigfoot reports, I just want to let everybody know that I have been gathering several new reports, some of them ranging from a year up to present day. both here in Virginia and also in the state of West Virginia. And West Virginia, I've been developing a cluster pattern, which is very exciting. And we are in the works of planning a spring expedition, and we still haven't quite narrowed it down to where we want to do this, but there's been some very fresh reports coming out of West Virginia, and they all seem to be within a general, area. Like I said, there's a cluster developing, and so we're trying to. I personally, I'm paying special close attention to that, and we got some investigations coming up, both in the springtime and so forth, and so people could be on the lookout for that. A lot of field videos and anything I do will be on my YouTube channel. I'll make posts about it, so I will. Like I said, I am trying to post more in updates on YouTube, so feel free to subscribe to that. And there is a new book I recently have out, and it is called Learning Bigfoot and Discovering the Hidden Truth. And this book here could be touchy to some people, but it's my view and my research thrown in there with science, religion, evolution, and the contradictions of evolution. So, and I use the religion. Yeah, so I use religion in there to make a few points on some of the things. Mainly talking about the Nephilim and why people believe Nephilim, why Bigfoot's one of the angels, descendants, and all this crazy talk. And so I kind of use a lot of religion. I actually use scriptures from the Bible and so forth. I use some theology in there from sermons of other theologians explaining a lot of terms. So, and it's not a real big book, but it's a lot in that book that breaks down a lot. So, and then it gradually gets into talking about Bigfoot. I share a few encounters from individuals in there. And so, yes, for those who might be asking, yes, it does have pictures.
Oh, great. So how does one go about getting this book?
You can find this book on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. And soon I am working on getting it for Learning Bigfoot, Discovering the Hidden Truth. So, absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah. And when we go offline,
I'm reading that.
Absolutely. For future reference, if you guys ever looking for a new guest, I do want to recommend somebody. He's very knowledgeable, full of information, and he is from out of East Texas. His name is, you may have had him on here before, I'm not sure, Baltimore Galvan Jr. He's a full-blooded Native American, a real good friend of mine. He was one of my speakers at our recent event here, because we have an annual ECBRO Virginia Bigfoot Con that takes place now every year. This coming year, we're still trying to work out a few things, not sure what's happening quite yet, so I can't share much detail on that. So we're still trying to figure a few things out for this second year of it. But he is very knowledgeable, and he talks about, he could talk about Bigfoot and how they're known as, there's a legend, it's a Spanish name, they're known as the Shadow People. So.
What is his last name again? Baltimore what?
Baltimore Galvan Jr. I'll go ahead and type in his name. I'll send you a link to his profile.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
definitely.
You so much. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. You can let him know Daniel Benois sent you.
I will. Thank you so much. That'd be awesome.
You're very welcome. So yeah, pretty much covers my...
East Texas, that's where I'm from. I'm wondering how far away he lives from me.
Beeville, B County, or something like that. Hold on. Let me look him up real quick. Give me a second. It should say on his Facebook here. Yeah, Beeville, Texas. Yeah.
Beeville, Texas.
And
that'll give me something to do after I get on the show. Look him up. I tell you what, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Always a pleasure.
Well, thank you. I love being on here. So, and I just sent you a link to his Facebook profile. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay.
Yeah, very welcome. So, yeah, Yeah, him and his wife, they're very nice people, amazing people. And when Baltimore was one of my guest speakers, he flew up here to save him money from room and lodging and all that. Him and my good buddy Zach Sterrick from Illinois, when they came out here, I had them crash here at my house. So so it was pretty cool. So it was like kind of like a back when I was a teenager, having friends over, camping out, sleepover.
Oh, isn't that fun?
Yeah, Baltimore stayed on he slept on the recliner, one of the recliners, and then of course after our first day, we had a 2-day conference, and after the day Saturday night, a group of us from the conference, me and several of the speakers, we all went out to eat that night and had a few drinks, and poor Zach had 2 drinks and couldn't make it up the stairs too well, so he passed out on he passed out on the air mattress, and when I went to go check on him, it was so funny. I have pictures of it, and I still tease him to this day, but he had my daughter's teddy bear with him, so.
Oh my goodness. That's funny.
So it was pretty cool.
You just totally trashed all of his masculinity with that.
Yeah. So. We had a good time. We the She Squatchers came out there. We had Ronald J. Moorhead all the way from Washington State, and we've had several others. So we had 2 different professors, Darby Orcutt from North Carolina State University. We've had Ernest Solar. He's a PhD professor from Mount St. Helens. I forget the name of it. It's a university up in Northern Virginia, or part of West Maryland or something like that. But we had some great speakers, and everybody for our first time loved it. We had between 300 and 400 or so people all together. So for our time, and several vendors, everybody loved it. Everybody had a great time. Well, we had Ohio Nite Stalkers. Mike Miller and Mike Feltner with us. Yeah. So they were awesome. They were there as well. So yeah. So yeah, we had a good time.
Awesome.
So
that sounds great. So you're having another conference next year. Or this year?
Yeah, we plan on it. Hopefully, right now it's a little tough. Right now, we're still trying to work on gathering sponsors because if we were to go up if we were to set this up and schedule this based off of my income, it's not happening. So sponsors are kind of a tough one to gather. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep up with the rent. So, it's not so easy.
You've done an amazing job.
Yeah, everything was successful last year, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but it just seems a little tough right now.
Yeah,
especially this time of year, trying to get through the holidays, So. So.
Well, you have been an amazing and wonderful guest. We thank you so much for coming on, and we are going to have you back on again.
Nice.
So everyone just get ready for that. You've just been great, and you're a great friend too. I just want to let you know that we think a lot of you, and just proud to have you on. Proud.
Well, Lori, you and Laura are a great host, and I really appreciate being a part of this with you guys. So.
Well, thank you so much. Okay,
absolutely.
Well, we better call it a night before they cut us off. So.
Yeah, I got to get to bed. Got work in the morning. So.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't have to worry about that, but I still have to get up. But,
all right.
Just to let everybody know that next Sunday, December 2nd, we're already into December, we'll be having William Henry. So, everyone, we're thankful that you listened in, and we thank you all for your patronage, and we will see y'all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.